You may have stood at the shore and wondered how much we truly know about that blue stretch in front of us. The ocean slips into movies and songs and bedtime stories, yet beneath the familiar waves is a world that still keeps its secrets. Think of today as a journey told in words, pushing off from warm sand and heading for open water. To see that the ocean is not only beautiful, it is the quiet engine that keeps human life running every single day. If this journey speaks to your love of exploration, subscribe to Chaos Travel, turn on notifications, and keep traveling with me. By a simple definition, an ocean is the salt water that fills the vast basins of our planet. Across that wide surface, more than 90% of international trade moves by ship, carried by hulls that cross monsoon winds and powerful currents. On the seafloor, fiber optic cables as thin as a thread carry about one-half of the world's data. The computer in front of you, the phone in your hand, and the signal bringing this video to you most likely rode the pathways of that saltwater world before reaching your screen. Set side by side, these facts show that the ocean is not just scenery, it is the infrastructure of modern life. Earth holds one continuous body of saltwater, yet for study and navigation we divide it into 5 parts. From largest to smallest, they are the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean, the Southern Ocean, and the Arctic Ocean. Within that big picture are smaller areas we call seas, usually pockets of ocean partly enclosed by land. The Caribbean Sea shines like a pale gem. The Mediterranean Sea connects 3 continents, and the East Sea in Asia hums with ship traffic. More than 97% of the planet's water lives in the oceans. Even so, by many estimates, only about 5% has been explored, depending on how you define exploration and how far you think we have gone. The challenge appears the moment you try to draw a map. Charting the seafloor is far harder than mapping distant worlds. In space, scientists can use radio waves to see through darkness. Underwater, the dense, salty medium blocks those signals. Sunlight penetrates to roughly 1,000 meters beneath the surface, then fades to black. Below that line, temperatures drop, pressure climbs many times higher than at sea level, and visibility slips towards zero. The deeper we go, the more the ocean reminds us to be humble before its physics. Why do our eyes see blue? Ocean water itself is nearly colorless, or only faintly tinted. Blue appears because seawater absorbs and scatters light in a particular way. Long wavelengths like red, orange, yellow, and green get absorbed quickly. Shorter wavelengths like blue and violet are absorbed less, and the remaining light scatters in all directions, so the surface looks cool and blue. The farther you descend, the last bits of light are swallowed and the water turns to night. On calm days, the ocean also mirrors the sky, but once waves rise and wind roughens the surface, the color darkens and breaks apart. From space, the ocean is not one single shade. You see ribbons of pale blue, deep blue, and blue tinged with green, woven like a pattern. These differences come from the amount of tiny life in the water, from sediments, and from dissolved substances. Where phytoplankton blooms, the water leans toward green, because millions of microscopic cells take in and bend light in their own way. When floods carry river sediment to the sea, the shades shift again. The map of ocean colors changes with the seasons, like the breathing of the planet. Beyond the color is a city that never sleeps. Scientists estimate roughly 1 million animal species live in the ocean. About 95% of them are invertebrates. Picture jellyfish as thin as glass, shrimp small as raindrops, starfish opening like flowers on the sand. The most common vertebrate on Earth is a sea dweller too, the seahorse. Tiny yet tough, it curls its tail around seagrass and turns with the flow. The ocean is also a vast field of plant-like life. Algae and phytoplankton capture sunlight, make energy, and release oxygen. The same oxygen we breathe every day on land. Every deep breath you take in a city street is, in a real way, a gift from the sea. Say ocean, and many people think of sharks. Movies have carved into our memory the image of a cold predator. The numbers tell another story. Humans kill about 73 million sharks each year, while sharks kill about 12 people. Stings from wasps and bites from dogs cause more deaths than sharks do. Even the chance of a falling coconut can be higher than a shark fatality in some places. In the real ocean, sharks often cruise close to check us out, then turn away. They rarely choose humans as a meal unless they are starving or mistake us for a threat. Much of our fear has been built by storytelling and screens, not by daily life underwater. When it comes to size, the crown belongs to the blue whale. It is the largest animal alive on Earth. Though we call it a whale, it is a mammal. It bears live young and nurses them with milk. An adult reaches about 25 to 30 meters in length and weighs more than 130 tons. Its tongue can weigh as much as an elephant, and its heart can be roughly the size of a small car. Blue whales roam most of the world's oceans except the iciest parts of the Arctic. They sometimes travel in small groups, but more often alone or in pairs, and in winter they tend to migrate toward the equator in search of warmer waters. Migration at sea is as epic as any journey on land. On the African plains, wildebeest move more than 3,000 kilometers each year to find food. In North America, caribou cover around 5,000 kilometers. The record belongs to the ocean. Gray whales travel about 22,500 kilometers, leaving cold waters near Russia, gliding to the coasts of Mexico, then returning to where they began. It is a grand loop across the map. Each swing of a tail is another mile. Each pause is a secret rendezvous along a far shore. If life is a grand construction, the largest living structure on Earth stands off the coast of Australia. It is a massive coral reef that spans about 344,468 square kilometers, large enough to be seen from space. Its wonder is not only the size. Inside each coral head is a maze of streets, alleys, and tiny roofs. Minute polyps build slow walls of calcium. Fish slip into the shade. Sea turtles pass through in the dark. The whole city breathes with the rise and fall of the tide and drifts with the faint rustle of sand. Stand on the beach and you hear the steady drum of waves. Taste salt in the wind. And watch sunlight break into bright shards across the surface. Overhead, a gull circles once and vanishes into cloud. If you stay long enough, you realize the ocean is not only a line at the horizon. It is the highway of goods, the web of information, the shelter of natural wonders. And this is only the beginning. Under the blue are valleys without light, pressures that can bend steel, and limits that force us to be careful when we draw near. Keep your breathing steady and get your mind ready. We are going to dive deeper, into the place where light fades and your heartbeat rings clear in the quiet. But before leaving the shore, let your feet touch the sand, let your breath blend with the wind, and let the blue settle into your memory. The ocean is always open, and it always reminds us that every great adventure begins with a single unhurried step. Now we dive deep. Beneath the whitecaps is a darkening world where sunlight fades after roughly 1,000 meters and pressure settles on you like a mountain. The deepest place we know is the Challenger Deep in the Mariana Trench of the Pacific Ocean, plunging beyond 10,900 meters. Down there, temperatures drop, visibility is close to zero, and the pressure is about 1,000 times what we feel at the surface. Sending people into that abyss is harder than sending them into space. 12 people have walked on the moon, yet only a few crews have edged into Earth's deepest trench. Cold, darkness, and metal-bending pressure make the ocean the toughest frontier we have left. Before we disappear into the gloom, one more note about the planet's largest animal. A blue whale can swallow about 3.6 tons of krill in a day. Picture that enormous mouth opening and closing as clouds of glowing krill stream in like rain. With a heart roughly the size of a small car, a tongue as heavy as an elephant, and a body stretching 25 to 30 meters and weighing more than 130 tons, it still moves with silk, like grace. A hunting dive might carry it down 500 meters, then it glides back to the surface to breathe, leaving a thin white print on the water like a lingering exhale. Human limits underwater are far more modest. Even trained scuba divers are advised to stop around 100 meters, because deeper descents bring rising risks like oxygen toxicity and other complications. In the wild, some deep-dwelling sharks live at roughly 1,500 meters, and beaked whales have been recorded near 3,000 meters before returning quietly to the light. as if they had visited a city of night at the bottom. A free diving record that many remember belongs to a legend who reached 86 meters without any breathing apparatus. A lone figure in a column of blue, trusting only lungs and heartbeat. A famous dive watch was even named after him, a small tribute to those who dare to touch the edge. The ocean stores more than life. It stores precious metals. Estimates suggest the seas hold over 20 million tons of gold. It sounds like a grand treasure, but in reality that gold is spread out like fine dust through the water, making extraction economically impossible. By comparison, the total gold humanity has mined on land is about 300,000 tons. If by some miracle we could gather every grain of ocean gold, each person on Earth might hold about 1 kilogram. The thought is dazzling, and it also reminds us that not everything within reach can or should become a resource. On the endless chart of the sea, there's a special coordinate called Point Nemo, the oceanic pole of inaccessibility. It sits in the middle of the Pacific, roughly 2,700 kilometers from the nearest land. There is no island, no harbor, and no ship lights there, only a lonely set of numbers in the swell. Few vessels pass except for research. Because it is so empty, scientists chose the area as a resting place for retired spacecraft. And the International Space Station has been planned to return to these waters at the end of its mission. It is a graveyard for travelers from the stars, resting quietly under waves. You might think the largest waves are the towering walls of water you can see offshore. In truth, many of the greatest are invisible from the beach. When two layers of seawater with different densities slide past each other, they generate internal waves that rise like underwater mountain ranges, running for miles in the dark. And if you pictured most volcanic fury on land, the sea tells a different tale. About 90% of Earth's volcanic activity happens on the ocean floor. One of the most active zones lies in the South Pacific, an area no bigger than New York City that holds more than 1,130 volcanoes. There, hot rock meets cold water, white plumes billow up, and black smokers hiss like an industrial skyline in the night. The longest mountain chain on Earth is not the Andes on land, but the mid-ocean ridge, a hidden seam that snakes beneath the seas and stitches the crust together. If you could drain the water for a moment, you would see a living network. Peaks and valleys, ridgelines and vents, all woven together like the planet's fingerprint. On that rugged stage, wind and current compose their own stories of waves, gentle as a lullaby some days, pounding like drums on wild nights, shrinking ships to toys on a giant's floor. Extreme waves that humans have recorded also testify to water's power. For years, the record stood at a 19-meter wave, measured by a buoy in the North Atlantic. Later, a ship in that same stormy region documented a wave reaching 29 meters in 2002. Chances are there are bigger waves out there that no one has yet seen or measured. In the heart of a gale, wind cuts like a blade, and every impact thunders a reminder of how small we are. The sea also archives maritime history in its own way. By some estimates, about 3 million shipwrecks rest on the seafloor. Timbers gone soft, steel shells gone cold, holds glittering in the dark. The famous Titanic is only a grain of sand in that vast graveyard. Scattered among sand and coral are uncounted artifacts and treasure, and some say the total wealth buried at sea exceeds what all the world's museums display. Every wreck is a story paused mid-sentence, every anchor a promise that never returned. Ocean rhythms can be stranger than we imagine. The highest tides on record rise in Canada's Bay of Fundy. At certain times of year, the difference between the highest high tide and the lowest low tide can reach 16.3 meters, taller than a 3-story building. From shore, you can watch a harbor lift and vanish, mudflats gleam like brown mirrors, then disappear again as the sea rolls back in like a silent army. For a sense of scale, draw a line from Indonesia to Colombia across the Pacific. That is the ocean's widest span, roughly 20,000 kilometers, many times the diameter of the moon, a reminder of how vast this body of water really is. Beyond gold, the sea gives us another essential resource, oil. Nearly 1/3 of the world's supply comes from offshore fields. Oil platforms stand like steel cities on giant legs, taking the brine and wind head-on, working day and night. The busiest regions include the Arabian Gulf, the North Sea, and the Gulf of Mexico. From there, crude flows to refineries and becomes the fuel that moves airplanes, ships, and cars. Quietly, the sea keeps feeding the arteries of the modern economy. But alongside these epic stories comes a warning. Beyond climate change, pollution is transforming the ocean faster than we can keep up. Each year, the amount of trash that enters the sea is estimated to be 3 times the mass of fish we catch. If that trend continues, by about 2050, trash in the ocean could outweigh the fish that live there. Picture a beach where foam mixes with plastic dust, where hatchling turtles tangle in thin bags, where the wind rattles empty bottles along the tide line, and you will understand why the ocean needs our gentlest care right now. When sunset spills across the water and the horizon shifts from blue to violet to rose, you realize what we have shared are only a few slices of a much larger story. The ocean still holds countless mysteries. Let this journey end with a soft invitation. Come closer, listen more carefully, and then set out. If there is a place that can overwhelm us and teach us humility at the same time, it is the sea.